Greetings and welcome to the Transform Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Anastasio. It is Wednesday, February 8th, 2023, and this is episode 102. And welcome back, guys. Just wanted to, kind of start off the podcast by saying, we definitely are kind of excited to get into a proper rhythm, if you will, with our publishing, and I think we are back on track starting this week. It's been a little bit choppy since late 2022, a little bit choppy starting off 2023, so definitely looking to get back into no less than one episode a week, if not 2 episodes a week, which is what was more customary for us throughout most of 2022. So just want to get that out of the way, guys. Episode 101, which we published on February 1st, a week ago, talked about whether it was time for you to start a podcast or not. I think I cited some statistics about how the rate of new podcast shows coming out into the marketplace has slowed down considerably, producing an opportunity, I think, there for you to launch your show and start gaining some traction in the long-form voice space, i.e. having your own podcast. So check that out if you get a chance, guys. That was episode 101. As we work on our next 100 episodes here up to episode 200, excited to get there as well this year. What I want to talk to you guys about today, and we're really just going to be scratching the surface. Let me warn you right off the bat here as we do this 8 to 12 minute podcast. We absolutely, in terms of us at Transform and you as our audience, are going to have a longer and more continuous conversation about the introduction of artificial intelligence tools into the digital landscape. I'm mostly thinking about ChatGPT, which actually came up in episode 100 that came out on January 5th, where myself and my colleague Mayank Singh talked about a lot of different trends that we see happening in 2023. And that was one of them. We didn't spend a lot of time on it. We didn't have a lot of time. I think it was about a 30-minute episode or 40-minute episode, and we covered a lot of ground. But that's where we first mentioned ChatGPT. And, so that's definitely the foremost thing on my mind right now when I mention AI to you guys, but it's not the only thing. Another tool that's come along that I'll talk about a little more at length in a moment, Synthesia. Pretty crazy in terms of what you can accomplish with regard to using AI avatars, using what looks like real people to kind of, basically speak your message in a video format and that sort of thing. So basically, guys, but before I get too deep on any of the tools, because this is not going to examine specific tools very closely. We will do that in future episodes. We will talk about strategies, tactics, things of that nature in terms of how you can actually deploy something like ChatGPT or something like Synthesia or something like Pictory. We'll get to all of that. But what I think I really wanted to focus on today are 2 things, kind of my own philosophy about the introduction of these tools into the digital landscape and sort of the impact that it's going to have, and tie that back to some other themes that we often talk about here on this podcast. And then secondly, kind of cue off. Excuse me, kind of lost my microphone there for a second. Queuing off of a really good post that my colleague Mayank Singh, I just mentioned a moment ago, that he put up recently on LinkedIn, and just kind of like talking a little bit about that as well. So let's start there. Okay, so Mayank posted, I think it was within the last 24 hours, it depends on which time zone you're in, about the media hoopla surrounding ChatGPT, some breaking news over the last 24 hours that Google had announced their competitor to ChatGPT called Bard. I'm guessing that they took inspiration from William Shakespeare or something with regard to using that term and that kind of wisdom, I guess, that they infuse into a term like that for a system like this. And then sort of maybe as an extension of this arms race between Microsoft and Google, Microsoft announced that its Bing and Edge browsers would be powered by an upgraded ChatGPT AI model, right? So in Mayank's post, he pointed out 3 things that would sort of shake the foundation here a little bit in the near future. And he wrote about how Microsoft would go in guns blazing, capitalizing on a small window of opportunity to chip away at Google's market share, in terms of search functionality and stuff like that. Number two, Google would rapidly accelerate its effort in the space to ensure that it doesn't end up playing catch up. And then thirdly, that other players in the market, maybe ones that we're not so focused on or so trained to look at right now, would come into the picture and try to get their foot in the door as this whole large language model trend, which ChatGPT is in that family of systems, that trend would open up brand new possibilities, like total left field kind of competitors coming into the space and making some things happen from a table resetting perspective. So I think as Mike concluded his post, and I agree with him a million percent. And he quoted Marcus Brownlee that when brands compete, consumers win. And I totally think that this is something that, as you guys consider how you can use these kinds of AI systems and models to improve your marketing, your branding, your business, that just know that putting aside any philosophical or ethical concerns about these systems and where they might take us, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. It's totally not going to be helpful or relevant to us figuring out how you can market better. So we're really not going to have those discussions here, but they're out there and they're worth having. But I think when you look at this from a marketing perspective and you look at what's happening on this landscape, only good things are going to happen in that vein from multiple competitors coming into this space and trying to figure out ways to improve and enhance the use of AI systems like ChatGPT, like Bard, for consumer use. And so it's something to keep your fingers on the pulse of. It's something that you guys want to really stay tuned into. I think that ignoring it is at your own peril. And that kind of leads to the point that I wanted to make from my perspective, and really appreciate Mike's thoughts on this. Please check out his LinkedIn post that he put up. Let's see, as of now, he put it up 10 hours ago, so that would have been very early AM here in the United States on February 8th. But here's the thing, guys, and it goes back to what I said a moment ago about philosophical or ethical concerns. As you do your marketing, as you strive to produce content at the scale that we have told you need to, right? All the stuff I've said on this podcast about scale and volume and production and cranking out content and putting out more content than you already are putting out and more, that whole message is impacted and in some ways assisted by what's happening in this AI space. If you turn away from AI because of ethical or moral concerns or, where is this taking us or, we're losing our humanity, any of those types of arguments that may very well be valid, I'm not even going to comment on them, you risk falling way further behind than anyone else out there who has figured out how to produce volume and has figured out how to use these AI tools to do it. So somebody already producing more volume than you, just naturally, forget about AI for a second, somebody producing more volume than you in your space is a threat to you. I don't even need to look at what they're putting out there versus what you're putting out there. Volume is such a game changer in this situation that alone could be a differentiator to put you, further out of business versus that competitor, right? Take that competitor who then adopts these AI systems, who can produce textual, voice, and video content at exponential rates, okay? Whatever they were doing before by their human effort is now enhanced by an exponent by these AI systems. Now you don't stand a chance. You absolutely don't stand a chance. And so if you think of it, and this is an indelicate, perhaps, analogy, but I will throw it out there, that when the first atom bomb was made, it's not that any other country necessarily wanted to produce nuclear weapons, atomic weapons, but they had to because somebody else had. And when that somebody else had, unfortunately the United States, they had to catch up. They couldn't sit on the sideline and say, okay, well, we don't agree with this weapon. We don't agree with what it does. We're not happy with what it does. So we're just not going to do it. We're just going to let that other country do it, and we're not going to touch it. We're not going to go there with it. That presented a huge risk to that country's safety and positioning in the geopolitical world order, right? And again, an unpleasant thing to think about, how that weapon came about and its history and that sort of thing. But in some sense, in a marketing perspective, saying to yourself, I am not going to use these AI tools because I don't agree with them, puts you in that vulnerable position that other businesses in your space that do use these systems and do use these pieces of software to enhance and accelerate and scale their content production, you are instantaneously vulnerable in a way you've never been before. And that's my personal opinion. I want to be clear about that. That's Chris talking, the whole analogy, the whole piece there that I went through. But I think it's important to say it because we can get very philosophical about these tools. There's some amazing things going on, both that can be looked at positively and negatively with these tools. And if we're just strictly thinking about marketing and doing better marketing, doing more branding, and accelerating that process and enhancing that process, these tools have become a near necessity. And I personally would argue you might as well call them a necessity. But the only reason I stop short of that is because different tools might fit you a little bit differently here. But some of, or at least one of, these tools that are out there now that can write text for you, can write articles for you, can write blog posts for you, can write captions for you, can take other tools, not just the ChatGPT or Bard, but can take that text and turn it into a video, can turn it into a video with an AI avatar speaking in that video, precluding you from having to appear in these videos, etc., etc. These are game-changing tactics that have to be considered for your business. Okay, now, do I think there's going to be a backlash against it, where more human-based content will also have a role to play? Absolutely. I do not think that we will go 100% AI and no human being will ever appear in a video. That's not what I'm saying. But the ability to extend yourself and almost replicate yourself, your voice, your brand, your intention, through these tools and systems, we can't ignore it. It just simply cannot be ignored. So consider this, guys. I know like I said, Mike and I touched on this a little bit in episode 100, but consider this, episode 102, as sort of our prologue to how we examine and think about using these tools and how they can impact your business and help your business. And we'll just grow this conversation over time. We certainly are excited to hear what you guys think about it, or if you're already using these things, or you have tools that we don't mention and we haven't talked about here on the podcast and you want to mention those. Would absolutely love to hear from you guys on that front and see what you guys are doing and how you're doing it, and which direction you're going with this, and so on and so forth. And if you absolutely disagree with it, we'd love to hear your premise for that and how you're approaching making up for it and things of that nature. So as we wrap things up here, guys, think about this AI movement. If you're behind and you're not even sure what I'm kind of talking about, go out and do some homework on it. It's an absolute necessity that you do that at this point, so you at least gain that awareness and see what's going on in the space. And, of course, if you want to reach out to us about this or have a conversation about it with us for your business or whatnot, you can find us on LinkedIn and Facebook at Transform. You can go to the website at transform.com. We definitely want to engage with you on this because this is a very exciting new kind of area that we really need to look at closely from a business and marketing perspective. Okay, guys, so thanks for following the podcast. Thanks for checking in today on episode 102. I'm going to try to be back with you for episode 103 by the end of the week, so we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, guys, thank you again for your support. Thank you again for checking in with us. Reach out to us if you need anything or have any questions, and we will talk to you again soon. Good night, guys.